Thanks for joining us. We're going to be casting a game between JHM, otherwise known as Jamaican Hopscotch Mafia, and JSG Mutiny. I'm Blur. I'll be doing play-by-play, and with me is Naori Mizuki, who'll be doing color casting.
Hello, everyone.
So we're looking at JHM. JHM are a group of school friends. They're roughly 15 years old now as a group. They're in grade 10 together, and they've been playing together since grade 7. Not necessarily Overwatch, but a bunch of games. What kind of play do you think we're going to expect from a team that's sitting at roughly 2.6 as a team average SR, and plays together largely casually?
Well, I think that being at that SR, they have a slightly better understanding of the game. That's kind of like your entry level where you start to understand how things work and how compositions work and so on. So hopefully we'll see some interesting stuff out of them. But considering that they only play casually, that kind of negates it just that little bit. I think what we're likely going to see here is some mechanical skill and not too much understanding of compositions and synergy between heroes and how compositions work and so on. So it's a little bit of a juxtaposition there, but hopefully we'll see some interesting Overwatch either way.
And coming from Mutiny side, we've seen a team that has struggled to find its feet so far in their open division pool. They're currently, at zero wins for I think 3 matches now, and they haven't actually taken a map yet. So what do you think they're going to be wanting to take out of this game to kind of do a little bit better than they have in their previous games so far?
Well, I suppose in a sense, JHM are a little bit of a dark horse. We don't know too much about them. So I think going into this, the biggest piece of advice I can give is to not be overconfident. Realistically speaking, when you don't know enough about a team, that's when you really should be thinking, okay, this is losable. You need to have it in your mind that they are better than you just because you don't know, right? Rather overestimate than underestimate. And based on that, and based on the games that we have seen from them most recently, I hope that they've worked on their synergy a little bit, and I hope that they've worked on their target prioritization and their call-outs, because those were some places where I felt that they were lacking a little bit, as well as ult economy. So I'm excited to see if they did go back and review that VOD, and if we're going to see something a little bit more strong from them this evening.
Cool. So we see the teams are lining up in the lobby currently. It looks very much the same Mutiny as we've seen before. And JHM actually only have 6 players on their roster currently. So they're, obviously the same as we've seen before. Speaking as someone who's played with and against these guys already, what I expect to see from JHM today is that I expect that we will see a lot of strong Pharah play out of Metal Snow. He's quite prone to that Pharah, and Trizzle is quite prone to his snipers. So we'll see those two going. I think we'll see some strong DPS play coming out of those two, and some solid tanking coming out of Misty Falcon, their main tank and their captain, who's been quite active in trying to get this team up and running, despite their difficulties actually getting their basic scheduling and synergy down. They nearly had to forfeit a game versus Rebellion last week. So,
oof.
They nearly had to forfeit it, and then they came out and they won at 3-1. So
wow.
Despite that, they're still a fairly strong team, and it's one that we can expect to see some really strong plays out of. So what are we kind of looking for out of that group then?
So again, it comes down to the lack of practice, I guess. And I'm really hoping that the little bit of practice that they have managed to have together will pay off, right? So you mentioned that they won a game 3-1, and that's pretty huge. That already tells me that they've got a lot going for them, and that they do have at least part of the recipe for success in Overwatch. So I'm hoping to see them run some compositions that make a little bit more sense. I've spoken a lot about South African innovation in composition, but I've also spoken about how a lot of teams play heroes that don't synergize well together, and it is ultimately their downfall. So hopefully we see some established compositions that make sense, and hopefully we see them execute those compositions well. what I do want to just talk about a little bit is Mutiny and Night Knight's Junkrat, which we saw doing a lot of work for them. We also saw some Widowmaker at some point, and I think if JHM have got that Pharah play that you were talking about, then it might be a little bit difficult coming up against the Widowmaker, and I think that's going to be a matchup that I'm really excited to see. So hopefully these teams give us a show.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very interesting game to see. And if Night Knight does go into that Widowmaker, I expect to see a really strong showing out of Trizzle, who's always from our experience with him, was a bit of a dark horse. He kind of pops up and he gets a big pick here and there. And against a team that's maybe struggling to find their feet a little bit, I think he could really, if he puts out a dominant performance today, he could lead his team to a big victory here.
Well, I'm excited to see it. And the first map that we're going to be seeing here is Nepal. It's the same map that we saw in the previous game. And again, we saw some very interesting compositions there. We saw some of that Orisa Roadhog Halt Hook. We saw some Pharah. We saw a lot of interesting things. So hopefully we're going to see something just as interesting here. I really want to see one of these teams run the double sniper composition, because that's quite strong, especially on particular maps here. So hopefully we're going to get some interesting stuff coming through.
Oh, we've just lost a player as well. So we've lost Lolgod. One of their support players has just dropped out of the lobby for a moment.
Oh, yeah. You hate to see it.
Good start. He
left by accident.
Very good start. It takes speaking from experience, it takes a couple of matches to get used to these lobbies. I know before I really got into competitive Overwatch, the only time I ever used the custom game feature was for memes. Flying Lucio boop games and stuff like that.
Well, you know what? Better get these technical difficulties out of the way now, rather than, because as we know, you can lose ult charge, you can lose a lot of momentum, and it can be quite painful. So happy that they are getting it out of the way before actually getting into the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, we see he's actually struggling to get back right now. They're actually having tech issues now.
Oh dear.
We'll see. We'll get the game going in a moment, I'm sure. But yeah, no, it seems that JHM are a well-intentioned team. It's obviously, finding this time for Overwatch and finding the schedule. It's it's a bit of effort. It's a bit of a commitment that a lot of people don't expect when they sign up for the leagues initially, and it can end up being something that's really, really difficult to balance with the rest of your life. So I think that they're getting a bit of a taste of that now, and we'll see. Like, they seem like they're willing to try and have a good solid go at it, and they've got a couple of results so far that indicate they might. They got the win versus Rebellion. They took a map off One Trick Meme Stack as well. So
wow,
they're not too bad.
Yeah, it looks like they have actually put quite a bit of work into this, despite not being able to put as much as they might like to. I will just say that obviously there is a difficulty when you're in high school. We had a high school team last year that wound up having to drop out, unfortunately, because balancing it and making sure to be able to schedule your games in a timely manner and at a time that suits everyone, it does become rather difficult when you're trying to balance that with high school. So hopefully, I mean, these guys, clearly they're trying really hard to make sure that they get their games going. They're putting in a lot of effort here to schedule these games and to get the practice in and to do all the things that make a team work. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to bring to the table tonight.
I think it'll be quite exciting to see just how they get going tonight, and I think it's going to be quite exciting to see how they get going versus Mutiny. Mutiny, obviously, also quite a new team, but a couple of players that have been around. I think Kubran from Perseus last season had some time in that team, and a lot of these players are regulars in Pugs and regulars on the competitive Overwatch server, regulars in Seraph's coaching games as well. So we get to see, how they've improved, how they're working, and as a team, how they're kind of getting together, as, they are quite new.
I'm happy to see that they are getting involved in Seraph's coaching, because just that little bit of extra coaching, that little bit of outside perspective can really change the way you play a game. So I'm glad to hear that teams are getting involved in that. It is a resource that anybody can benefit from, really. Oh dear.
Oh no. looks like They're already having a DC issue here early in the game. Instant pause as they're starting to put together compositions. But we can see from JHM that they're already tending towards that Pharah on the Sanctum map, which means they might be looking for some big boops into that horrible hole next to the point.
Hopefully we're going to see a little bit more of that Holt hook. Hopefully we'll see some of that Lucio, some Pharah maybe. I mean, even Diva is pretty good at getting those boops off if she can get you close enough to the edge. So really hoping to see some of that. But I also hope that they don't rely too much on that hole. There's so much that mechanical skill that you can't overstate the importance of mechanical skill, right? Like, yes, absolutely, getting boops into the hole is pretty huge and it creates a lot of opportunity for you, but make sure that you're still you don't put all of your energy into trying to get those boops, because you might wind up getting booped while trying to set up a good boop.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very important to see how Mutiny actually counters, because even without the hole, the Pharah can still be a very intimidating prospect. High ceiling on this map, very tight corners that are a little bit difficult to get the angle on her, that would really give you the advantage in the engagement. So, she could end up actually just dominating the sky, simply because, of her kind of natural skill set.
Sorry, just helping out these teams here quickly. Yeah. You said the same thing I did. We're so helpful, guys.
Again, it's new lobbies, teething issues for new teams actually just finding their way into the scene.
Yeah. Again, as you said, these lobbies can be quite tricky, especially if you've never had to do it before. I always like with all the strange rule sets, I used to make like a preset so that I didn't have to fight with it every single time, because it really is a hassle.
No, I mean, I think we all have our presets by now. One for Metal State, one for VS, one for Open Division if you're in that competition. Just lots of specific rules that are just really, really intimidating to get right if you're a new team in the scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and all the weird settings that you have to fiddle with. But the nice thing about the ZA scene is that we are quite close-knit, so if there is ever a problem, it's really simple for people to just, reach out and get the help that they need. But getting back into this game, some interesting compositions here. All right, I like it. We're seeing Trizzle on that Widowmaker, Metal Snow on that Pharah. Excited to see that with a nice Mercy and standard Reinhardt Zarya tank line. This is a pretty standard composition, I'm not going to lie, and it's also going to create some of that damage from all angles that we spoke about earlier this evening. On the other side, however, we've got that Reinhardt Diva again, and that's another composition that I've spoken about that doesn't make too much sense synergistically. They've got that Junkrat and a Symmetra, which also really surprises me, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this Symmetra, because she's got a lot of utility, but of course it just depends on what you decide to do with it.
Well, they're rolling out to get to the central mega on the map, so they're going to be engaging from that central platform instead of the traditional straight onto the point engagement. So, they're set up at an angle here that's, makes it, they're actually getting all the way behind the enemy team. Unfortunately, they've just taken too long to get into position, and Metal Snow are able to actually really capitalize and really make them suffer for positions they took. Those Symmetra turrets are actually doing a lot of work on point right now. A bit of a sleeper pick, but here it is.
You really can't ignore those turrets, man. That rotation was a bit strange. I like the idea of it in general, but with that Pharah raining so much damage into that enclosed space, it just made it so easy to get the pick-offs that Snow needed. So really they're going to need to rethink their engagement. Might not, however, already at ultimate, while the rest of his team at the most are at about 50%. So now they've got a big wall that they can try and use to their advantage. Let's see if they do actually manage to use it effectively.
Well, Metal Snow picking up that really difficult to actually counter position. They don't have a hit scan to deal with him right now, and he's just raining down the damage right now. The rest of Ivan's team actually going on a big rotation to try and get at their backline, try and get their Widow, but they're just not able to deal with Metal Snow, who's already got his barrage. What do Mutiny need to do here to get back into the fight?
Well, first up, they need to swap off the Symmetra. The wall did not do anything really, so need to swap that off as quickly as possible, because yes, the wall is great utility to have, but the rest of her kit is not helping out at the moment. So need to swap that off. And I'm also not really happy with this Junkrat pick because a Junkrat versus a Widowmaker and a Pharah, again, it's not going to do anything. You're not going to get any value out of it. They need some sort of a hit scan to deal with that Pharah, and the tanks need to be diving onto that Widowmaker. Those are some things that they really could be doing to make this work.
Well, here, Mutiny have switched onto the dive composition now, which they still haven't switched to hit scan in, but they now have the Hanzo instead of the Symmetra. What are we expecting to see out of the composition they're running now?
Not much. Death. Unfortunately, as they walk out of spawn, they do get absolutely annihilated. Yeah, this first point will go to JHM.
And that last fight, we're seeing a lot of really, they're going in multiple different directions, which is something we saw in the previous game as well. Is that something that's endemic to these two, newer rosters and newer teams, that they're just not really on the same wavelength just?
Yeah, that's very true. I think it also comes down to something that I speak about quite often, and I'm going to reiterate it once more. It's that thing of playing heroes you're comfortable on and not necessarily that work in a synergistic manner in any sort of composition. And we saw that on the last map. We saw it from Mutiny, where they ran the Junkrat and the Symmetra, and it didn't make sense synergistically. It didn't counter anything on the enemy team, and there was actually no real reason for running either of those heroes. Hopefully now they're going to come out with something that makes a little bit more sense. Now we're seeing this Winston Zarya, which we've also seen before from Mutiny, and it's another weird one because synergistically those two tanks do not work together, but they do have the D.Va as well, so they're running a kind of a GOAT but without a Brick Eater, which I find interesting. I know that it has been getting a lot of value in scrims recently in higher tiers of Overwatch, but I think for a new team that doesn't have too much synergy, running such a synergy-heavy composition probably isn't the best idea. And I know I spoke through your entire play-by-play, but we did see it in this fight. They had no synergy going into this, and the opposing composition of this Pharah doing so much damage into their backline is making it absolutely impossible for them to get any value.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Is that, they know that the Metal Snow is going to come out with the Pharah and be very, very oppressive with the angles he's taking up and the huge amounts of damage he's bursting out on them. And they switched onto, a strange GOATS rotation, which, they know what they're already coming at. They know they're coming at something they actually realistically can't do a lot of damage. So maybe just a mispick in that sense.
I mean, it just comes down to understanding the GOATS composition, right? There's so much that goes into it. You can't just pick any 3 tanks and any 3 supports. That's not GOATS. GOATS is a very, very particular composition, and we can see it happening right now before our eyes. It's just not working.
And I mean, in this particular perspective, we talk about Metal Snow's ability to kind of oppress the other team from the air, but Mr. Falcon's just sweeping them up when they get onto point now. He's, using that Reinhardt hammer and absolutely decimating whatever's, coming his way.
That added to, again, all of that damage from the Pharah into the backline. Supports are getting a little bit of ult charge there, but it's just not enough. And of course, Kuberin continuing to just dive arbitrarily into the backline. Oh, nice barrage.
Yeah, and there's a barrage out of Metal Snow that just, cuts them down. They aren't countering him now, and he's, he's got that advantage. Cool dressing, pushing all the way up to the enemy spawn. Kind of suppressing them in there, delaying them, making sure he gets a bit more time. And RooTB, he actually falling off the map.
Unlucky. And of course, Pharah getting so much value. They've now swapped onto the Hanzo and the Soldier. They're hoping to get some value out of that. But an early pick-off, once again, advantage heavily in favor of JHM.
And with 10 seconds left, it doesn't look like JHM or JSG Mutiny are going to be able to get into the point. Big shadow coming out from Mr. Falcon. And although Lord Devadis is looking to try and use the coalescence to keep his team up, that will be the game. That will be the round.
Yeah, very decisive win here from JHM. And they didn't swap up their composition in either of those 2 maps. They ran this Pharah Widowmaker, which I must say is a pretty good compositional pick, and I think that they've got the wrong rule settings here.
Yeah, they do have the wrong rule set up because JHM are 2-0 up. That should be the game.
Oopsie. Right.
Whoops.
So I really like the compositions they were running with the Pharah and the Widow, and the reason being, you have to deal with that Pharah. So if you get a Soldier or a Hanzo or whatever kind of hit scan to deal with that Pharah, they're constantly looking up. They're basically trying to tunnel vision that Pharah. And the moment you look up and you're not looking at the Widowmaker, it opens up space for the Widowmaker to get the picks that she needs. And vice versa. If you are diving onto the Widow and you're ignoring the Pharah, then the Pharah gets the picks that she needs. So very good compositional choice from them, especially running against what Mutiny was running. Because again, it's like Mutiny understand on a very basic level that GOATS is 3 tanks, 3 supports, but they don't understand how GOATS works beyond that. So they're running the wrong tanks and the wrong support heroes. There's no synergy. They've got their Winston diving in with no support. D.Va doesn't dive with him. The rest of the team are still kind of in the back line, not really doing much. They're running a brawl comp with a dive tank. It's not even full-on dive goats, because dive goats is the Winston, D.Va, and the Wrecking Ball, so that you are able to actually dive as a team. So they really, this is again something that I said about them in the last game that I casted. They really need to be thinking about their compositional choices and the heroes that they choose in their compositions. JHM doing a fantastic job here. That Pharah putting so much damage into their backline, and the Widow getting quite a few picks there, quite a few key picks as well, and just making their lives a living hell. Really well played to JHM.
And it's next map's we're moving on to the next map now, which is going to be the escort map of this series, and we're looking at Dorado as the second map going forward here. Are we expecting to see more Pharah out of Metal Snow in this first point here?
Very possibly, especially if they don't run any sort of Widowmaker or any deal with it, right? If they run the same weird compositions that they have been in the last 2 maps, then that Pharah is going to get ridiculous amounts of value, and it'll be absolutely fine for JHM if they run that Pharah Widow. If we see Mutiny possibly come out with a Widow or maybe even a double sniper, then I think that they could really put up a showing here. But if they're going to keep running these weird strats, then I'm not too sure how well they're going to do.
Oh, we're heading into the lobby now, so we'll see what they're running in a few seconds. But we got Mutiny on the initial defense here, and JHM starting on the attack. What kind of defensive strategy do you think? Do you think a bunker? Do you think a dive? What do you think they should be looking at here, given what JHM have already run at them?
Yeah, I don't know if bunker would be the best opportunity or the best thing for them to run, especially because Pharah can get some pretty good boops and knock them off of the high ground, and then they've essentially some problems. I think what they need to be running is possibly a double sniper, or even a May to get some nice May walls to deal with the Widowmaker. If you can get those walls up onto a high ground or whatever. A dive could also be quite good, because then they can dive onto the Widowmaker, and once the Widowmaker's out of the picture, they can deal with that Pharah. Or possibly even just a brawl comp with some hit scan, you know? Like, they really need to be thinking about how they can counter the type of attack that JHM are going to be launching. But it looks like the attack that JHM are launching could very well be Pirate Ship, and we haven't seen too much Pirate Ship in a while. And we can immediately see Mutiny running the Hanzo Soldier, expecting that Pharah, and now I think they're going to struggle against this Bastion, because of course they've got that Winston, whose bubble gets absolutely shredded by the Bastion. They do have Lord of Ardas on that Anna. If he can get a good sleep or possibly anti-nade, then they might have the opening that they need. But for the time being, I don't know how well this comp will do against the Pirate Ship.
Well, Mutiny are set up very high just around this corner, so they may actually be able to get the jump on JHM's Pirate Ship, but we'll see in a second now. Kubrand jumping on, not actually getting the value, and Roots BC actually going too far, so the defense matrix doesn't actually get value on that Bastion. Bastion currently without a shield and getting stepped by the Ana, taking damage from around, but you know, the fight looks like it's already over.
Yep, just like that, we had the Winston diving on top of the Bastion, which see, that's where D.Va Matrix is so important, right? You need to be matrixing your Winston so that when he dives, he's got a little bit of extra protection, and then you've got to rotate your bubble with your Matrix. You've also got to be using those micro missiles if you want to be taking down the Bastion. Like, if you're trying to dive onto a Bastion, again, there's a certain level of coordination involved, and they're still running this Winston into a Bastion, and it's not going to work, right?
Ivan's currently taking a flank on them, and so is their Winston, they're both on Metal Snow's McCreek at the moment, but in the interim, JHM have actually captured the objective. So any deaths now are just a big stagger for Mutiny.
Yeah, I don't know what Ivan and Kurin were doing all the way on the side there, and the rest of them felt like they were just kind of standing around on the other side. They were quite split up. They clearly don't have a real plan of action, and that is a very weird belt. I'm not sure why that belt came out. Oh, Battle Mercy!
We're seeing some
Let's
DPS
go.
Mercy after full person. He's swooping in there, he's getting a couple of hits in, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anything substantial enough to get a pick. Even going quite low in this whole process. Metal Snow is actually flanked up and around them right now. Might be looking for a Deadeye if he manages to get up. 10% off at the moment. They've actually moved away from the payload right now, so Bastion's sitting on the payload uncontested and unshielded.
Metal Snow doing a lot of work here, really performing and doing well with his shots. And now we've got a Sombra from Night Knight, and this is a good pick to try and disable that Bastion, but does get caught out, so he's just gonna get staggered really.
It's the same issues we were seeing before though, is that, you know, they have like a kind of idea, you know, they want to get around the Bastion, they want to get, you know, a Sombra into hack, but they're not engaging quickly enough to actually stop the point being captured.
And yeah, we just roll straight on through second point, moving on towards third. Ivan does eventually get the pick off onto the McCree, but it's not enough. They do have a small window opportunity here, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough.
Here comes configuration tank from the high ground. Sombra and next to him, he doesn't actually look like he's shooting at anything in particular right now, though he does get the pick on Lord Devadus, and with the Sombra next to him, that might be actually quite valuable. The hack comes off on the Bastion and the attack visor comes out, but Lolgod's Transcendence is enough to see that out and see JHM largely through this fight. Just the Valkyrie, Mercy, and the D.Va left on point. Oh, here comes out a self-destruct. No value there, unfortunately.
And again, even running a Mercy into this Bastion, if you're gonna Valk, don't fly up, because it's so easy for the Bastion to kill you. In fact, you make yourself an even bigger target. They just had no way to respond to this pirate ship, and ultimately it was their downfall. The swap off onto the Sombra was good. It was actually an excellent way to try and deal with that Bastion, but unfortunately the synergy and the team cohesion is just not there. It feels like they've got players that are going off and doing their own thing. We saw the flanking Winston followed by Soldier, while the rest of the team sat pretty and nobody contested Cart. I don't know what they were waiting for, because there's no way for the rest of the team to engage on the Bastion while the Winston and the Soldier are busy flanking. I don't know if they were waiting to get a pick, but it wouldn't have really mattered, even if they had managed to take down the McCree, because the Bastion was still on Cart and the payload was still moving. It's these small things that Mutiny really need to look at. They're not focusing on counter-picking, and they're not focusing on actually synergizing.
So coming out in this next on Mutiny's attack, it looks like they're looking for a double sniper dive.
Hell yeah, I'm actually really excited to see that. One criticism that I do have for the composition is that you shouldn't run double sniper without a Mercy. You can, but you cannot understate the power of running a Mercy with double sniper, because damage boosted Widow, a body shot is a kill. And if you damage boost the Ashe, it's huge. So running double sniper without a Mercy is immediately a bit strange. Also, you've got that nano boost. Who do you nano boost? Are they going to nano Bob? Are they going to nano Kuberin? That's another thing that they're not thinking far enough ahead about. And this defense that we're seeing from JHM with Misty Falcon on that Widow again, and of course Metal Snow on this McCree that did so much work in the last round, I don't think that they're going to get too much love unless this double sniper comp can get some pickups.
On the side of JHM, we're actually seeing some rotations. Trizzle, who's been their sniper player for most of the night so far, is actually on the off tank now, and Mr. Falcon, who's been their main tank, is on their Widowmaker. It's a little bit of a strange rotation. Night Knight getting behind there, getting a big flank, and even though he's sitting on the ground, he's got a nice angle, and he's got two very valuable picks early in the fight. This fight looks like it may be getting away from JHM a little bit. Night Knight getting another one out in the D.Va, and now they're moving back. Lolgard sitting up alone, and Metal Snow managing to take out the Farah from the perch position. But despite that, there's only 3 of them left. I'm not sure if they can take on the 5 of Mutiny.
Well, yeah, Mutiny, and they did lose a couple of players, but they do have that massive spawn advantage. Very well played from Night Knight. JHM were not expecting that flanking Pharah, and it worked really well getting those 2 initial picks, but a self-destruct will come through.
And that's a huge self-destruct. Getting 3 and the Diva mech, and Cool Dressing is able to just clean up after that.
How do you analyze that? You know, Diva hit Q and 3 people died.
Big bomb, lol.
Like, really well played, launching it over that bridge so that it creates a little bit of confusion for Mutiny. They couldn't really figure out where the bomb was coming from, and it came over the top, and it just annihilated half their team. And there you go, GG to your push.
JSG actually taking a rotation underneath, but they're just actually coming out on main now. Cool Dressing actually getting behind, hitting the big shatter in there. Now has the Ana and the Pharah in a very tight and close area. Shields up though, because he's low on health, and it looks like their fights might have already been won. Lord Devader's getting a big pick out there on the Reinhardts, and Nano coming out on the baby Diva.
Do you know what? I think that Diva was about to be demeched, and the Nano came out to try and save, but it was too late. The demech had already come through. So, a bit unfortunate there. The other thing that I want to point out is Night is still on this Pharah against a Widow and a McCree. I'm not happy with that, to be honest. I feel like they should definitely be swapping that off, especially because these 2 DPS have been hitting their shots, and Night at this point is just giving away free ult charge, really.
Kubrand's Primal Rage came down in that tunnel. A nice area to actually use the Primal Rage in if they're taking the engagement. But, you know, it turns out that he was just, at the end of the day, a big ult battery for that team down there. As JHM come out of that fight with 5 ultimates ready, having just used the Nano on Cool Dressing for the brawl underneath.
Yep. Oh,
big shot from
Mr.
Mr. Falcon.
And that was Ivan. That was a big mistake on his part. He shouldn't have been peeking. You know, you're waiting for your team to regroup. You really need to be thinking about this. You know that they have a Widowmaker. You know that Widowmaker is waiting for you. And Night is still on the Sparrow, but does manage to take down Metal Snow. And that could be huge. That could be the opening that they need.
JHM have also lost their Diva mech in the interim, and Mr. Falcon getting a pick on Night. Kubrand trades that pick, however, getting a big charge, and it looks like this fight's big shatter coming out from Cool Dressing, and that should be the fight. JSG, yep, go ahead.
No, well, that's definitely the fight. I mean, they're still trying to contest this as much as they can, but they're not going to be able to get back onto point with only 25 seconds left. They do still have 2 ultimates. Night has been sitting on his barrage all game, refusing to swap off of that Pharah, and honestly, I feel like that was a huge part of why they lost this game, because you can't be nice bomb. You can't be running a Pharah into double hit scan.
Not getting the pick on Metal Snow there as he was trying to use his high noon. And JHM a little bit disorganized right now. Big purple on Cool Dressing at the front of the team, but Mr. Fuck cleaning up, making it, even though Kubrand's getting good value at the front of the team, the rest of his team's dying behind him.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Now, they are managing to continue to push this cart, which is quite impressive. But we do have Baby Diva below trying to get back onto cart, and there is still a lot of time here for JHM to contest. They have come out with the Wrecking Ball, which is a very good stall hero, so they will hopefully be able to bring this back. A nice Valkyrie comes through. This is the opportunity that they need to keep pushing, but they've just left Cool Dressing chilling on this point here, contesting forever.
Mr. Falcon as well has been getting really good value versus Night, and the Night has been sitting on this barrage most of the game now.
He really has.
It seems like he's not. They don't have the way to get the value out of that.
Kubrand actually to the Widow, lol.
Kubrand actually veering off the point there, where the brawl could have actually been a little more valuable for his team, and JHM managed to clinch the win without Mutiny having taken that point. Although their fights look like they may have in a couple of situations.
And that is another thing that I really need to point out, and it's something that I've said so many times. Once you've won the fight, so many teams lose focus. Here was this beautiful bomb. It was actually quite impressive. Very well played.
I mean, this was the first of many of these comebacks in the fights where, you know, it was just one big ultimate, took it back. One big pick, took it back.
That's all that they really needed. And somewhere where Mutiny have really been struggling, so they win the fight. And it's like, yeah, you win the fight. Keep going. Keep up with your momentum. And then everybody starts coming back from spawn, the enemy team, and there's no coordination. They use a really good ultimate to gain advantage, and it feels like they're trying to run their whole strategy on ultimates getting big picks. So they're not focusing on systematically chipping away at the enemy team, getting picks one by one by one. It's an all-out mess on the point until they get ultimates, and then they hit Q and they hope to get a big pick. And when they do, the enemy team comes back and just takes it back from them. And when they don't, they've just wasted an ultimate. And the cycle repeats itself.
And then, then they have ultimates that they just sit on. They just have, they had that barrage they just sat on all game. And, if Night was holding on to that barrage because he was going to switch after he used it, he should have just used it. Even if he got 1 or 2 picks, it would have been, the value would have been there considering he wasn't going to stay on there. But instead, he stayed on the Pharah into 2 hit scans, one of which he was really having very good luck against in most of the game.
You've actually touched on a very, very important point. So we need to remember that one of the main features of Overwatch, above so many other games, is the fact that you are able to counterpick at will. And yes, sometimes you have an incredibly valuable ultimate and you're like, I want to ult first and then I will swap. And sometimes it's worth. But sometimes when you're running a Pharah into double hit scan and you have barrage, it is worth more to your game to swap off and lose that barrage than it is to hold on to that barrage forever and consistently be countered by the hit scan. I don't know why he was so adamant to stay on that Pharah, but it was the wrong choice, and they lost off the back of that. Not just that, as I mentioned, there are many issues that Mutiny had, but that was one of the big ones because they went into every fight 5v6. Because the Pharah, yes, Night was getting a lot of picks off on that Pharah, and that was great, but it wasn't enough. It's not enough to just be doing damage. It's not enough to just be getting picks. You need to understand that this game is about so much more than that. Teamwork and synergy are so important.
Yeah, well, moving into the attack of Volskaya here, JHM look like they're coming out with a full-on dive comp, albeit without Lucio and then, oh no, changed my mind.
Yeah, this is a standard OG dive composition versus a almost bunker comp. We just no bastion. So we've got the double shield, we've got the double splash damage, which is pretty huge. Oh, nice.
Ooh. Trades coming across, and Cool Racing get a really valuable pick there. Oh, that's no supports now in the fight for JSG Mutiny, as it looks like the strength of JHM's dive is just being shown really nicely early on in this fight. And I think this is the difference we've seen from dive comps in the last 2 games, or the games tonight so far, is that this dive it was very smooth. They got onto the point, they fought the same things, and they won the fight quickly.
There it is. It's that teamwork, it's that coordination. And the issue that Mutiny are having right now is that they have no peel for their back line. So you've got this dive composition where peeling for your back line is of the utmost importance, but they don't have an off tank, they don't have anybody that can peel for their back line. And yes, they get a good pick off, but will it be enough?
Speaking of missing a tank of some description, JHM choose to engage without Mystic Falcon. So they've engaged without their Winston to dive into the comp, and they lose that fight very, very quickly. What did they lose out of that fight by not having that Winston there?
I mean, a shield for one thing. He's their only shield at this point. Diva Matrix is not enough to deal with an entire composition. They needed their Winston there. They need to be taking advantage of the fact that there is no backline heal. Winston and Diva need to be diving together and not being on opposite sides of the map. They need to pick a target, dive together, take it down, and then they can win the fight. But at the moment, they're playing quite scattered. The synergy that we saw earlier seems to be a little bit scattered. Ooh, nice Dragon Blade.
Oh, there goes both of JSG Mutiny supports, and it's pretty obvious, where the target focus is coming in right now from JHM. However, picks going both ways. It looks like there might be a way in back to this fight for JSG Mutiny, but I've just been proven wrong as JHM clean up.
Well, we might see a little bit of a stall here from the Mercy, but she flies away. She could have touched point there. Yes, she probably would have died, but at least would have contested. Oh!
Tyre comes out of spawn and just catches the Winston shield. Absolutely nothing else. Kubran getting a little bit of brawl into the points, and actually, looks like they might hold it for now. Cool Dressing just stuck behind the team now. Destroys the supercharger, but I think that's all he's going to be able to get from the fight.
I'm actually incredibly impressed with the teamwork that we are finally seeing from Mutiny, team that we wanted to see.
Rocket Barrage comes out a little bit late in this fight.
That was quite a questionable barrage.
But despite that, JHM is still peeking in, poking in, trying to see if the fight's still viable, and they lose their Zenyatta as a result.
Well, now they're going to have to wait for him to respawn, and this is perfect stagger opportunity for Mutiny. If they can get one more pick, then they can continue to stagger this out. And I really want them on how they managed to hold this point. This is the team we wanted to see. They came out, they were losing the point quite handily, and they came back onto point, and they managed to take it back quick, sharp, no problems. Let's see if they can continue with that interesting chance.
Trizzle manages to bait out the chance by taking up a really good position in their backline. Knight's now moving up to counter him on the Junkrat. That means that they're now a little bit scattered and might be vulnerable to a strong quick dive. As we say that, Cool Dressing's blade comes out again, and down goes Mercy. Transcendence coming out from Lolgard, and it looks like this fight may be tending in the direction of JHM right now. Down goes the Zen, down goes most of the rest of their team. That looks like it should be the round now as JHM cleans up the point.
Nice, very well played there. They came back, they used ult to their advantage. They slowly and systematically picked off players, exactly what we wanted to see from the beginning. Mutiny putting up a far greater fight than what we've seen out of them before, so I'm really happy with that. They are slowly starting to understand what they need to be doing to win these fights. So I think that there's a lot of potential for them, and I'm hoping to see them bring that through now on their attack.
I think just, you know, moving into this side, I'd like to see an off tank out of Mutiny now. I'd like to see, you know, them bring something in and protect this backline a little bit more, because they could have won a few more fights if, you know, their Mercy and their Zen weren't the first dead on their side.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, dive, that's the point. You dive onto the supports, you get them down, and then it's just free pickings. When you're playing against a dive, you either need to be playing a dive of your own and kill their supports first, or you need to be running something like a McCree or any sort of a hero that can peel and protect your supports. And that's not what they were doing, and they were getting rolled for it every single time. And now again, we're seeing this interesting double main tank composition. It's not an Orisa this time, which I'm really happy to see, because Orisa on attack is not great. Her shield is just way too stationary. But we've got this Winston and the Reinhardt, and I'm not too sure what kind of defense they're expecting to warrant this kind of attack. But hopefully it works for them. They are running the Pharah without the Mercy this time. And on defense, we've got Roadhog, which I really like. I think he's expecting that Pharah. And again, the skybox is fairly low, so he can get a nice hook onto Pharah, pull her into the team. And they've got a nice Moira to also just right-click forever. And the double hit scan. They are expecting this Pharah.
Well, JHM is set up in the center building right now and might be looking for a sneaky engagement on their backline. And there it goes. Ivan hooked in by Rail, and that's the first pick out by JHM. They're moving back in now. JSG Mutiny have moved to point, left them in the dirt, but they're already missing 2 players, and that might be the fight over before they can even get a tick.
I mean, just like that, it's super fast hold here from JHM, just not allowing them onto point. As soon as somebody peeked around a corner, they jumped on top of him. They did not allow that person to live, and now they just, not even one tick, as you said. Now they, Mutiny are going to have to reset. I really hope that Night swaps off of this Pharah faster. Please, Night, you stood on that Pharah for so long on Dorado. It didn't work against the hit scan. Please, now's the time to... Okay, Kuberin
trying to disengage from having been hooked by Rail in that fight. Oh, Cool Dressing getting big boot. Ivan and Mugiwara both off the map, and that's the fight over before it even has the chance to go.
Oh, well played there, Edit Lucio. Oh, missing the hook there. What is Ricky doing? Hello? The very weird thing, again, we're seeing, and this is something we saw last game as well, D.Va's trying to fly onto point and contest things, and now they're engaging 5v6. They can't possibly win this fight.
And, you know, as we go, Ivan's still going 1v6 on points. He can't last this fight. Nor can Mugiwara, who's going in straight after him. What's the end game here for them? Night now down as well. Mugiwara now down as well. What is the end game here?
I think that at the moment they are incredibly frustrated. You know when you play a comp game and you feel like your team isn't doing anything, so you like, you overextend and you're like, I'm gonna carry this game. That could be the mentality that they're having at the moment. It seems they might be a little bit tilted, a little bit upset with how they're playing, and they're making silly mistakes, and it is showing. Night is still sitting on that Pharah, despite all of these hit scans that are making his life a living hell. Even though he managed to get a pick off, I mean, this is the opportunity that they need, getting that Lucio down.
And now here comes the coalescence from Lord of Adis, and You know, it looks like it could be a fight. And the benefit of this unorthodox comp of theirs is that it allows Kuberan to pressure onto the Widowmaker, give Night that space to try and get him the engagement.
Oh!
A huge shadow coming out from Mystic Falcon, hits 4, and it looks like this might be the fight over again. Just as they look like they might lose the fight, a huge ult coming out to just turn it in their favor.
Jeez, just like that. Oh, this could be... Oh, it got nothing!
Oh no, it did get Misty Falcon, who's sent further off the map.
But Misty Falcon took Moira with him, so that's worth. They are man down, unfortunately. But it probably won't matter. He is gonna get back, and 1 minute left for Mutiny to try and pull something out here. Please, they're still not waiting for their Winston. They're standing out of spawn. They're feeding ultimates just by standing around and allowing damage to come into them. Now their Winston is finally back. This is potentially last fight.
And the problem here is that they're poking and they're engaging. They're looking for something where if they engaged, even if they did engage with 5 there, they had 5 to go back the other way.
Oh, but they could be turning it around.
There's the barrage we've been waiting so long for, Nights, and out it comes. Looks like we're looking for the win on point 1 here. They look like they may capture it. We might have 4 minutes more for Sky Industries at least.
Hallelujah! I'm so proud. Off of the back of a beautiful Earth Shatter, they do manage to get the picks that they need, and it looks like they will take this first point, and just in time. Now, however, the real uphill battle starts, because they had spawn advantage for the entirety of their attack. Now, while they're attacking, JHM are the ones with the spawn advantage, and it's going to make it that much easier for them to pull through a solid defense. Oh, what a good
Trizzle getting huge pick out on the Moira on the other side of the map there. And, you know, the big problem here is that while Knight's Farah may have worked on first point because of the high cover shielding his approach, on second point there's just nowhere to hide for him. You know, he might go around the sides, but, you know, there's always an angle the hit scans can get on him from in this fight here. And there we go, Metal Snow getting the picks early in the fight. And the coalescence coming out from Lolgard, that might be enough to seal this fight for JHM.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to hold you quite steadily. I don't know why that Primal Rage... And this is something we saw in the previous game as well. The tanks are diving on point. I don't know what they're hoping to achieve. What do you possibly gain out of just jumping onto the point when your entire team is dead and you are going to die? There's no way you're going to stall out for a tick. The best possible thing you can do in this case is save your ultimates, jump off the map, die, and regroup. All they did now was serve as an ult battery.
Oh, Kuberan actually switching off now, so the Primal Rage might have been coming out because, you know, he was just trying to get it out and try and get some value before he switched. He's now onto the Zarya, so they're now running Reinhardt, Zarya, and D.Va. They're running a little bit of a hybrid goat, so they've still got this Farah out. Farah not really working anymore, though.
Farah hasn't been working this whole map, and for some reason, Night is adamant that he will run this Farah until the day he dies. And there he died. Maybe now he'll swap off.
Metal Snow picking up a position behind them to look for a Deadeye, not really getting it. Misty Falcon bringing out another big shatter on this team. They haven't disengaged, and Kuberan doesn't escape with his charge. Something so valuable as a Zarya.
This is just not working. JHM, they're holding so strong here, and they're not even running the most synergistic comp at the moment. They're just running 2 hit scan because they know that Night is not going to swap off of that Farah. Mutiny is actually making it easy for JHM to win. They've now pushed so far forward, far beyond what is even necessary, and they're still gonna hold. Mutiny are sitting on 4 ultimates, and I can guarantee you that it's not gonna be enough. They have an Earth Shatter, and they have a self-destruct, and that could be a very potent composition. They're now going to engage with Beat, and hopefully, they do manage to get some value.
Bomb coming out of Ruti, and that takes out Cool Dress.
Yes!
Ooh, big shatter coming out. There goes Mr. Falcon. It looks like it may be going to an overtime game. There goes the Road Dog. Trizzle and Metal Snow still behind. There's 2 hit scans left behind the team, but there's a tick. Metal Snow moving towards the point, still hasn't touched. Second tick, got by JSG Mutiny. Cool Dressing into the corner now. Oh, the yoink from the Arista pulling him in. Metal Snow hiding behind, and that's actually the comeback from JHM. There's the fight in their favor. 1 minute left. Will JSG be able to take this fight, or will we be seeing another map win from JHM in this next one?
Honestly, they used 4 ultimates to get onto point, and once they got onto point, they had nothing to zone out JHM from getting back onto point. And as soon as JHM got back onto point, they did clean up. JHM don't even need ultimates to win these fights, and that's the worst part about it, because JHM, they're so very coordinated. This is literally Mutiny's last chance. They're going in dry. They do have the barrage, but I don't know if it'll be enough against this Widow and this McCree. And Ivan gets booped behind his team. There's only 20 seconds left.
And they're going to need to get it in this 20 seconds, otherwise it's last chance for JHM. Then they only have the chance of a draw for this map. Oh, Kubran taking out Trizzle in this fight, and the Coalescence coming out from Lord of Vadis. As too is the Sound Barrier. They've got a couple of ultimates. They could still win this fight.
There's
a big shadow.
Oh!
Out comes the Supercharger, and down goes the Orisa. And it just seems as if they're not making value out of these ults. They're sitting on a barrage again. We need this barrage to come out. It's too late now, Night. It's over. It looks like it's over now.
Yep.
And there we go, 76.4%, and JHM take the map.
And I'm going to say it again. They lost off the back of that Pharah pick. Night, please. I understand that Pharah is your strongest hero, and you do a lot of work on that Pharah. I will never take that away from you. I have been very impressed with your Pharah play for this whole game. But you need to understand that Pharah is not the best pick in absolutely every situation. There is no hero that is the best pick in absolutely every situation. I mean, even Goats isn't that strong anymore right now. Even Goats is a situational pick. It was the best composition in every single situation, but not anymore. So, much like Goats, Pharah has her place. And running her into 2 hit scans and a Roadhog is not her place.
And I think, that's what we're seeing from this game, is that, despite there being a lot of individual skills showcased on both sides, the cohesion from JHM won the game here. The fact that they were able to stay as a unit, work as a unit, dive together, regroup together, push on together, and get those valuable wins that they looked like they may not at any given point in time, means that they were able to come out of this match, victorious.
Yep, very well played to JHM, and very happy to finally have some VODs on them. People can now watch these VODs and planning for when they play them in their next matchup, guys. I'm putting it out there. JHM did pretty well tonight. So for those other teams that are in open division at the moment, that have their eye on the Prem division spots, this is definitely a team to watch out for.
And in terms of JSG Mutiny, what do we need to see from them in order to, curb the streak that they're on at the moment, this losing streak?
Again, it's got to come down to working on that synergy. So, and not just synergy within the team, but synergistic hero picks. This is something that I will harp on until the day that I die. They need to work on target prioritization, because they win a fight, and as soon as they've won the fight, the enemy team regroups and then they lose the fight. So they need to be relying less on ultimates to win them fights and more on their mechanical skill and their coordination and just general understanding of the game, right? And of course, Night needs to learn to not run one hero when he's being heavily countered. And I say Night, but that's something that a lot of players need to work on as well. I've seen it in various games throughout the VS season this year so far. So really, please, Night, remember to swap off of that Pharah. Otherwise, it's Night for Night.
And I think it's Night for this game. It's been a fun game, been a fun game to watch, been a fun game to cast. And thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you for casting with me, Nari.
Thank you, Blur. This has been great.